Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.
Welcome to Footwork.
I'd like to start with the present. So what has been taking your focus right now? What is your passion right now? And what does it look like?
Yeah, so I'm currently running two programs. The one is domestic in the States. It's called Two Bridges Football Club, and that's a nonprofit. It seeks to help inner city soccer players get academic help, obviously soccer training and leadership development, and it's purely donation based. So there's no, financial barrier for these guys to play. So that's what I've been working on in America, and then in Germany, I still have Fussball Project, which has detoured and made a lot of stops along the way as to what our mission is, and right now, what gets me excited about is just helping young American players get abroad to Germany in the right fit. That's really what we've been, made our bread and butter. So those two things have really been chewing up my time and getting me excited.
And with Two Bridges, what kind of led you to this decision? What made you say, okay, there is this issue, and me along with other people can be ones that can help rectify it and help players, who have those barriers to the game?
Yeah, I think growing up in New York City, you get such a melting pot of players in different cultures, and I saw players that maybe didn't get the same opportunities I did that were maybe better players, right? And it led me to understand that talent is distributed equally, but opportunity is not, especially in America. So I think just seeing that, a small incremental change or support for some of these inner city players can lead to monumental differences in their life, right? And it doesn't always need to be college. It could be as simply as, playing football, getting your coaching license, maybe going to Europe, or even as simple as if you left the program that, I need to show up places on time. I need to shake people in the hand, look them in the eye, and like those kind of little caveats, I think make a world of difference for a young man that doesn't have much direction.
How do you manage those expectations with players? Because I know Sean and I, when we got out of college, it was, you look for a name a lot, kind of like you said, of what level, and then you look at the tier. What tier am I playing at? Without realizing that, it's probably the most important thing, like we've touched on, to get into a place like Germany and then try and rise up the levels and get seen and get experience and learn the tactical avenues of it all. So how do you manage that for a young player who's probably looking at, I just want to go pro, I just want to be a pro baller, but there's some work I have to do first to get to that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really tricky process. One of the steps we're now taking is we're in the process of acquiring a club that just operates at the youth level. But the idea there is to say, look, any player that comes through the door, their first step, whether it's trial or a year-long time they want to commit, they go to that club, and we will bring the people to that club. But you essentially you can eliminate the risk there, right? You can still say, and I've been wrong about a lot of players, and you can still say, look, Dortmund's going to come, Schalke's going to, because to get a scout to come on a Thursday night to a club in Dusseldorf is very realistic, right? But to get a player from not a big club in America into Dortmund is extremely unrealistic. So you can eliminate the risk by getting them to look at the players and say, like, look, what do you think? What level is he at? And then the big club may say no, but MSV Duisburg, which we had the other week a kid go to, they may say, oh, he's a great fit. Let's bring him in for a week. So you can kind of like manage your risk as a name and as a brand, but also have the players understand, like, look, you are getting the eyes from the very best. But on the end, it's up to them. We can open the door, but we're not in the business of like pushing you through or getting on the political side. Because as you guys know, it doesn't really exist in Germany. It's not like I could be on the board and my son will play every game. Like it's that, that kind of stops in America.
Yeah.
And how is the feeling? I mean, the West is kind of the hotbed of Germany with so many teams in the Bundesliga and second Bundesliga. How is the feeling of you bringing over Americans? Are they highly interested in young Americans? Is that kind of an expanding new market? Of course, they're getting players from all over the world. Everyone's trying to send players there. But it seems like more and more Americans are coming over and playing in the big leagues here.
Yeah, I mean, actually, there was like an agent I was talking to last week, and he said like the American market is moving towards what the Brazilian market was 10 years ago. That clubs in Europe are just overpaying for American players. I forget the name of the player that went to Roma.
Is it Brian Reynolds?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Like he hadn't played. This is an MLS guy who was telling me, but he was like he hadn't played that many games in MLS. He hadn't shown that much, right? He had some glimpses, but it wasn't like, all right, this guy is a no-brainer. But they paid, I think, like 9 or 8 to 12 million in that window, which like years ago for an MLS player, that wasn't like
be ridiculous.
MLS you'd be insane. But it's kind of like everybody's like, oh, let's take a chance. He's an American kid. At the very least, we can get some branding, some marketing in the States. Like there's just like, it's like the Nicholas Pepe deal. Like it's such a hot market right now. So I think clubs are always interested. The West, you just have the beauty that you could, we have like a player house there. And the players that live there, like they have access to so many clubs living in the same place, where like if you lived in Südwest Germany, like you may have to have each kid travel 2 hours, or the options are limited. If you don't make it at Saarbrücken and Elversberg, you're done. Like that's it. Find a lower. Where here it's like you have Oberhausen, you have Essen, then you get into the Oberliga clubs, Victoria Köln, Fortuna. Like there's just such a array of clubs that you can get to that are well structured and well funded.
I would love to pick your brain on the idea of scouting, because I mean, I can't imagine how many players you've placed at this time. And I would just like to know some of the things you look for, whether it's on the field or even off the field, for someone who you think, oh, I can bring this player to Germany and, we'll have a real chance at getting him something.
Yeah. I think in technique is like, the first step. If that isn't the foundation of the house, I think it's very difficult to make it in Germany. That's the one. If that's not there, it's tough to you can get a player fit, I say, in 3 months to 6 months. You can get a player strong in 6 months to a year. You can change a player's mentality in 3 months, but to build like a proper first touch, I mean, that takes years. It's so hard. So I would say that's the first basis. And then they need, in modern day football, they don't, they need a change of pace. They don't need to be the fastest person ever, but it's very difficult to not have a change of pace, both in recovery and offensively, to be deceptive. There needs to be some change of pace, and it breaks my heart. And like I have zero change of pace, and that's probably why the Oberliga was my final destination. But the modern day game, it just requires that. And then the third aspect is like a mentality thing. I think there's guys that you can take a chance on, and they can get to Europe and get hit, and they recover and say, all right, I'm up for this. And there's a big group that says, nah, this is just not for me. To see it, to front run the train, and when you see them in the States, to say like, okay, this player can kind of like, can this kid live alone in like a basement in like Oberhausen? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Not right away, but if he's not willing to do that, like it's just not going to work. And you can get that out pretty early. You can get that from a conversation. I could tell from Sean immediately he was extremely willing to live
from Mongolia.
And what about when you get it wrong, I guess, or when a player kind of misuses your connections and trust? Because at the end of the day, it's your time, it's your connections, which, you've built a lifetime making. So what is that experience like when a player doesn't really, hold his end of the value in terms of being a good model trial player, or, using your name to the best effect?
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, it's especially in Europe, it's a cutthroat game. Like Sean was saying, everybody's trying to push players into Germany specifically. So it's like, you're not the only one in line. I'll never forget, we had a kid. This was pre-COVID. We sent a kid to Schalke, or Schalke invited a player of ours, and he did well, trained well. And then after, and this was partly my fault, after, goes in the locker room, picks up his bag, walks out. Doesn't ask if he should return the training gear. And as you guys know, doesn't say bye to anybody, and then doesn't shower. And again, I should have been like hard about it. Like, those are like 3 imperative things. But I just thought, like, just whatever happens on the field, like, nail it there and you're good to go. And this was early days of me doing this, but it took a lot of convincing till we got our next player there, because we got the rep of like, those guys have bad attitudes, or they're prima donnas, and all sorts of things in it. And it made it really difficult. You're not the only one, trying to get players opportunities.
And how do you approach it now? Do you have that conversation beforehand? How to walk into a locker room and greet every player and say hello to the coach? And
yeah, I try and prepare players as best they can. I think little incremental changes can make your experience in Europe like so different, and things I wish I told everybody. Like, to learn, like, if like the players I have now that have deals to go to Europe in the summer for preseason, it's like, from now until July. I'm not saying you need to be fluent in German, but learn like Hintermann, Klatschen, like these things will, a coach that's already a little bit uncomfortable with his own English has such an easy reason to just not play you. But if you can eliminate that barrier, right, and fit in like another German player, right, like, then you really have a chance to come in right away and make a difference. So like saying hi to every guy, helping carry things, saying bye to people, like looking people in the eye. On the men's side, like, the harsh reality is, like, especially if you're playing like Oberliga, like, maybe stay for a beer on somebody's birthday. Like, I was like, like, I don't drink alcohol, like, goodbye. And it was just like, all right, just have something. It's not about the alcohol. It's like, just be like, show that you have skin in the game and that you're pulling the same ship that they are, So I do like a little, I don't want to call it course, but like just like an intro packet that I give these guys to say, like, look, these things would really help you. And it does. I mean, you guys know.
What are your advice to players going on trial? I know you mentioned before you kind of have not a workshop, but you kind of teach them the little things incrementally. But what about calming nerves and limiting the fear of making mistakes and going out to play your best instead of being scared to make a mistake?
Yeah, I mean, I always say fit in, then stand out, right? I think even with a session, like, fit in and show that if I took this guy, he would seamlessly fit into the group, and then show something. Okay, that's the element he brings. I think too much in either direction, then it's kind of like it's that classic conversation where it's like, I already have 3 of you, right? Like, I already have 3 center mids that do what you do. And then the other side of it is just like, look, you don't fit our system. So fit in, then stand out. I think with the football side of it and the nerves and stuff, just like understand, like, there will be other opportunities, and they may not be immediate, and they may not be on your timeline, and you may feel some regret if you didn't do your best, but like, there will be other opportunities if you keep pushing for them and doing the work and the contacts and stuff like that. Like, it will materialize. So just like, go out and enjoy it. I mean, at the end of the day, the majority of us are not doing this for the money, right? There's other things most people could do to make the same or more money. So like, enjoy it. Like, you have to. That's the root of it. If it's not there, then why bother? If you're gonna beat yourself up over it, or put that pressure on yourself, then it's like, you might as well do something else if it's gonna bring you that much anxiety. So just enjoy it for what it is, and understand that, like, there are people that can no longer play the game of football because of injuries, or the fact that you're already there and been invited to a club is a success in itself. Like, now just go out and have fun.
Love that. The fit in and stand out may be the quote of the day too. Also,
Yeah.
I mean, just the notion to enjoy it, because you never know how blessed you are with the opportunity. But before we get into our little fast feet round at the end of our quick fire questions, I'd like to come back to the present and just, where can people find what you're doing with the Foosball Project and the Two Bridges, and what do we have coming up in the near future?
Yeah. So Fussball Project is just at the Fussball Project on Instagram, and then Two Bridges is at Two Bridges _ on Instagram, and we're like always pushing out new content and new ideas on that. Some cool stories to follow. What is coming next? We are opening up FP Residency, which is a residency program for players to live under a house in Germany. I call it like a development sprint, meaning like if you're going to come over to Germany and you're going to play at a second league team, which is probably where you should be, you may only train 3 times a week, and you're trying to close the gap between you and the Bundesliga players. So you need to go into a development sprint, which means, a technical trainer or a fitness trainer or physio comes every morning, then your meals are curated, then you train at night with a club that's at your level, and you see like how far can I get 18 months worth of development in 10 months? Is that possible? Living all under the same roof and kind of eliminating those barriers of like the discomfort, the homesickness, because you're with guys that are, fueling off each other in that same struggle to kind of, break through to the top level. So that's coming this summer, and I'm excited about it. It'll be a smaller pilot program, but I think it's just a really cool concept to say like, look, it doesn't need to be optically very pretty, but it's just like we're all here for the same reason, to just like develop, improve, regardless of like where we are right now, to just make that jump. So that's